Okay. All right. Our next story is a story called Rosemary Flavors by Funk McLovin. We've read several of her fics in the past. She writes a lot of really good dialogue centered fics. She writes a lot of really well done like humorous and unusual ones. Like one was very Scooby Doo mysteries inspired that we read. That was a lot of fun. This one is not Scooby Doo mysteries inspired, as far as I know. It is okay. Let's see. It's a Rosemary story. So we've got
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have three potential chapters to go down. They
yeah.
are
I think we'll read
standalone.
one for now.
Yeah,
Cool.
Okay.
we can
Okay. Let
choose which
me
one we want to, though.
let me. Okay. So we have a narrator. We have Rose. We have Kanaya. We have Car Cat, I believe. Yeah, Car Cat. Um, and that's all.
I hate my TikTok for you page because I can now never look at the word vanilla the same way.
I
Fan
would
Kid 2?
eh,
Oop.
a
Oh, no,
fan
the
kid.
kid.
Oh, do we have another one?
A fan kid, yeah, named,
Oh, fan kid. Random.
I
Thought
think.
you said a band kid, and I was like,
I
oh
thought
no,
so
not
as
band
well,
No,
but
kids.
Me?
oh,
Yeah, I
that's
thought
Rosa.
me.
Okay, Rosa.
band
Rosa.
kids.
Yeah, yeah,
At
yeah.
least the hosts.
I would like to voice Kanaya.
Can I voice Rose?
You sure can.
Yeah.
We need a narrator and a car cat and a random fan kid.
I'll narrate. I can't do car cat. My voice doesn't like that.
I'll do Car Cat, because I can do Car Cat.
I can do car
And
cat,
totally
but
just
I can
sounds like
only do
Carcat
it
and
for a little
doesn't
while, and then I
do
can't
it.
do anything else.
I can do
The
Car
only
Cat,
time of
but only once.
Right. I,
Again.
I I love the saying, you can do anything once. Oh, okay. Let me just read the
I
basic
wonder if we're on
information
this.
here. This is 18 and up audiences, no archive warnings, a Wallua fic. It's Rosemary fic. Additional tags, FanKid and AU. Published pretty recently, I think. Yeah, on 9/22, so about a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, good stuff. She makes good stuff, and she also has a YouTube where she does a lot of music. So check out Funk McLovin's stuff. Um, anyway, let's summary: Rosemary flavor, vanilla, Canon, Rose, and Kanaya as they appear on Earthsea at the end of Homestuck. Special thanks to Willow for the name Rosa and some lines. Oh, Rosa's probably their child. Okay.
Yeah.
Rose, Rose.
Kanaya's words fell on deaf ears. Rose stared at her breakfast eggs, bacon, staples of her human diet. Absolutely scrumptious, but her mind wasn't on consuming the meal. It was on something else. Something that had been weighing on her for days.
Rose.
A particularly stern intonation from Kanaya roused Rose from her daydream.
Yes, dear?
Rose replied, in a bewildered manner that didn't suit her at all. She gazed up at Kanaya's face, gray and sharp, her wife's dark hair falling about those robust horns, containing two green eyes that Rose was at risk of losing herself in so soon after coming to.
You've hardly eaten.
Kanaya said, wounded. Kanaya prided herself on cooking human food. After all, it's not like Kanaya enjoyed the yolk of earth poultry. Rose's black painted lips curled into a smile.
My apologies, Kanaya.
She replied, more self-aware now.
I was lost in thought.
Lost in thought wasn't somewhere Rose often found herself. Sure, she was calculating, but Kanaya didn't usually find herself outside her wife's thought processes. She wasn't a fan.
Well,
Kanaya said, expectantly, sitting across from Rose.
let's hear what has you distracted.
Rose hesitated. It wasn't as though she didn't want Kanaya to know. It was more that she found her own thoughts somewhat embarrassing. She picked at her food,
Thanks,
taking a
phone.
slow, deep breath. She bit into the bacon with a crunch, eyes shifting, avoiding Kanaya's.
You see,
Began Rose as she swallowed her poultry bite.
it's just that I've been thinking for a while about
Rose trailed off. She could see Kanaya leaning forward in her chair with trepidation. If the topic were anything else, she'd appreciate how on edge Kanaya seemed to be.
motherhood.
She finished, finally meeting Kanaya's green eyes. Kanaya didn't appear to quite know what to make of the world. After all, motherhood wasn't a familiar concept to most trolls. Kanaya, having lived with a human for most of her life, knew what motherhood was, but she'd never thought it in terms of her own spouse. nor, she considered, herself.
Motherhood.
Kanaya repeated. She had to admit she'd always been curious about motherhood. To her, the idea was novel, raising a child cooperatively with another person. It seemed strange that no megafauna was involved in the process, but she did surmise that it was likely that she could fill the role.
Yes.
Said Rose. She didn't know why, but she caught herself smiling.
I've been thinking about, specifically, well,
Once again, Kanaya's eyes were hard to meet.
being one.
Mother.
Kanaya clarified. She had a curious expression on her face, encouraging Rose to speak more.
Yes, I think would be lovely.
Rose was surprised at her own sureness. Internally, the choice was more fraught. She'd been going back and forth on it now for a month. Seeing Kanaya now, though, so eager and so clearly supportive, Rose could hardly keep her own wishes a secret any longer.
I'm afraid I'm unfamiliar with the concept myself.
Kanaya began, slowly. She put her hand on Rose's. For some reason, this made Rose's heart thud, her lips parting.
But I think since it is a normal part of the human life cycle, we should try it.
Kanaya, too, sounded sure of herself. Rose appreciated how little she needed to speak in order for Kanaya to understand her. Kanaya cocked her head to the side, however, placing a finger to her chin.
Though I'm not familiar with how to,
Kanaya paused, choosing her words.
get one.
Rose couldn't help but laugh. Her eyes shut and she laughed music, and Kanaya, though embarrassed, couldn't help but smile.
Whose line is this? Oh, it's mine. What? I'm not sure it's as simple as Dave has told me.
She said through her chuckles.
He said it involved waterfowl.
Of course he did.
Dorks?
Rose snorted, steadying herself on the table.
Gods, no, nothing like that. No.
She wiped a tear from her eye, but the truth of Kanaya's words sunk in. How would they get a child anyway?
I'm telling you, man, kidnapping.
Oh, that's me. Well, we are, shall we say, biologically incompatible.
Rose said, musing.
So I suppose the ideal way to go would be an ectoclone.
Indeed.
Kanaya agreed.
I'm familiar with the process myself. We can get Carcat to help.
Carcat?
Rose said, incredulous. Carcat was the last on her list of friends who would be able to help with conception.
Of course.
Kanaya said.
He helped me with the Genesis frog, of course.
Carcat seemed surprisingly eager to help them. A week after their decision, the trio met at the nearest ectolab, an old abandoned place, a remnant of the technology that the trolls rode in on inside the meteor. It was all a bit dusty for Rose's liking, and when Carcat flipped the lights on, they flickered with the same ominous buzz that one might hear in a horror film. Carcat shared none of Rose's reservations.
Been a while since someone has requested my expertise.
Carcat said, cracking his knuckles.
Carcat sounds like he smokes 20 packs of cigarettes in one day.
That's the Carcat voice.
Yeah, that's the Carcat voice.
Sorry, it was so jarring to hear that.
Rose and Kanaya are like, yes, dear. And the Carcat's like, stop, fuckers.
Carcat sounds like my fake Geralt voice, with unsurprisingly they are the same voice.
I'm sorry, this is really jarring after me and John just going like, yes, lovely, pleasant, and then just...
Hey, assholes!
I'm sorry, I need you to say heck yeah concrete for me in the Carcat voice.
Heck yeah, concrete, you said?
Yes!
I don't...
Why?
I don't understand.
What am I agreeing to? What horrors am I about to wreak?
There's a TikTok about the differences between
I can do it.
wildflowers like dandelions and roses. And for roses, it's like the pH of the soil is too high. And for dandelions, it's like, fuck yeah, concrete!
Heck yeah, concrete!
Very nice. All right.
And your Carcat voice reminded me of that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's get back on topic.
Back on track now.
Alright, I'm out of
I'm
water
just
now, so I
picturing
can't
Carcat
pause
taking
until we're
from
done.
Carcat said, cracking his knuckles. Sitting behind the controls like a veteran pilot in the cockpit of a plane.
You two came to the right place.
Rose and Kanaya held hands. They'd agreed to have a human child, as humans would be most ideal to raise in the environment they'd chosen, but they'd be including a part of Kanaya's genes in order to involve Kanaya in the process. It felt oddly momentous, and Karkat's enthusiasm was surprisingly welcome. He was already tapping buttons, bringing the machinery to life.
Do we give a blood sample?
Rose asked, running a hand over a large glass tube as it filled with green paste. The tube was about the size of two people, and another identical one was next to it, also filling with green paste.
Blood? No, that's barbaric. This process is much more elegant.
Karkat said haughtily.
All you have to do is locate a copy of the subject, make a paradox clone of them of vector slime, then regurgitate, coagulate, and combinify the slime into a new slurry with the combined DNA of the two or more hosts. It's totally simple.
Totally simple.
Kanaya agreed sarcastically. On a screen, Karkat had pulled up a picture of Rose and Kanaya, a still image from a date they'd been on last week. The still frame depicted them holding hands, which, upon seeing the photo, they reached for the other to do.
Will this take a while?
Asked Rose, who was the more unfamiliar party.
Nope.
Said Karkat, and as if on cue, the round concrete panel between the two goo tubes, a baby zapped into existence. Upon existing, the baby blinked, looked from Rose to Kanaya, and began to wail.
Dear God.
Karkat said, covering his ears immediately.
What the fuck is wrong with it?
Rose stepped forward, scooping up the sobbing infant and blinking in awe. It had her sandy blonde hair, and its face looked just like hers. It was so sudden. Rose didn't have words. Kanaya stood behind Rose, similarly in awe. Karkat recoiled, ears plugged, one eye shut. The new mothers, however, didn't hear the screaming. All they heard was a choir of angels that as every mothering urge in their respective bodies were affirmed at once, together. Two different beings of different species brought together in an instant by the zapping of a machine. Brought together by an infant.
Little Rose.
It's you.
Oh, it did not pick up. Little Rose.
Kanaya breathed, putting her hand on Rose's shoulder.
A little us.
Rose agreed. Tears pricked at her eyes as she held the tiny baby, but soon more practical instincts kicked in. She held out a hand to Karkat, snapping her fingers.
Blanket.
She demanded. Grumbling, Karkat complied and handed Rose a blanket, which she swaddled little Rose in. The baby seemed to calm down, its sobs and wails now downgraded to fussy whining.
Karkat.
Yeah, kid, me too.
Said Karkat, peering down at the thing.
You guys are seriously gonna raise this thing? Like, inside your house?
He seemed skeptical. Luckily for him, his job was finished.
What are you gonna name it?
Junior seems a tad on the nose.
Said Rose, leaning against Kanaya gently.
How about Rosa?
It's perfect.
Kanaya said immediately. Of course, no matter what Rosa said, she would have responded the same. She kissed Rosa's head and then leaned down to kiss her daughters. Their daughters. Of course, raising a child wasn't all sunshine and fuzzy feelings. The first years of Rosa's life went much like one might expect. First crying, then picky eating, then the terrors of potty training. Sorry. Things weren't so insurmountable with a wife handy, so Rose and Kanaya found. Soon, Rosa was able to speak, and with that boon came the realization that she was just as snarky as one might expect the offspring of Rose and Kanaya to be. At the age of 6, Rosa was proven to be quite the handful.
She's finally in bed.
Rose breathed, flopping down next to Kanaya, who was reading. Kanaya didn't envy Rose. Last night it had been her own turn to put Rosa to sleep, and often that task constituted several hours of impatient reading and glasses of water. Rose immediately cuddled next to Kanaya, groaning into her side. Kanaya set the book down, hugging Rose tightly.
You did well, soldier.
Kanaya said, cracking a smile, settling down from sitting to laying, facing her wife.
She is quite willful.
She teased, tucking some hair behind Rose's ear.
Must be because she is 80% a clone of you.
Rose snorted, unable to keep from smiling. Still shoving Kanaya playfully, she squeezed closer, unable to come up with a retort.
Nice. Yeah.
Now, there's still, like, the underpants on the correct.
Handsome.
Do we lose our Rose?
Our Rose is temporarily interacting with her own mother, I believe.
Oh no, Rose and Mom doesn't really mix well.
I love how the child's name is Rosa, specifically because that's the name I gave the Dolorosa in my musical, so it's literally a combination of Rose and then
Nice.
Kanaya's mother.
Nice.
Hello, author of fanfic here.
Hello,
Hello,
Jojo.
Jojo
Yes.
Flavors.
Jojo!
Yes.
Oh,
The
yes.
name Rosa was actually concocted by the head of the Rosemary Likers Discord, so I can't
yes.
take credit for it.
Yes, I'm also in that Discord.
It's a
Also,
Discord for people who like Rosemary.
it is very much what it says on the tin. Also, thank you for joining us, Jojo. This
Hello.
is Jojo Funk McLovin. She is a
Funk McLovin.
musician, author, leader of various projects, does a lot of different creative things, both in and out of the Homestuck community. So, thank you for joining us.
I've also got a big wizard staff.
Nice, as one does.
Obviously.
My best friend's a Roxy Candy, and her mom collects wizard statues, tiny ones.
Nice.
bad.
One-
Amazing.
Made me think about.
Once you come on this trend,
Yeah.
you're required to pick your melee spec, and I went with baseball bat. But I went with baseball bat and cane, but wizard staff is a more than
Nice.
respectable choice.
I own
Well,
Yeah.
wizard
multiple
staff is-
swords.
Lexus whole
It has the oh yeah, one of the planned chapters for this is a they're gonna steal a baby. It's gonna be a
That's
raid in
perfect.
Arizona.
Nice.
Yes,
So look
that's
forward to that.
immediately what I thought of.
Stealing a baby. Very good.
That is
I'll
also
steal
kind
it.
of on brand.
No one will
We all
ever
hold
know.
No.
Is it gonna
Not
be all
stealing.
wholesome like the end of Raising Arizona,
No,
or is it gonna
guys,
go
guys,
much
guys,
more
it's not
realistically?
stealing. It's surprise adoption.
Yes, that's very euphemistic.
And
Also,
is Nicolas Cage involved?
do we have our Rose back? Are you
Yes,
done
the
with
Rose
whatever
is
you were
back.
attending to? Okay, because it's your
Yeah.
line.
Oh, cool.
You're on. She's far too much trouble.
Thank you. She's far too much trouble.
She said at last, sighing.
She's exactly the type of child that used to irritate me. She doesn't mind me when we go out and shouts far too much.
Rose pinched the bridge of her nose.
She really should be well behaved. I don't know where she gets it. She's a quiet child.
Kanaya didn't mean to, but she snickered. Rose frowned, looking back at Kanaya. Kanaya hastened to correct herself.
I don't mean to laugh. It's just that, well, from what you tell me, you were similarly strong-willed when you were a child. Your mother was much more permissive.
Rose bristled, sitting up. Kanaya swallowed. She hadn't meant to, but she'd
Uh-oh.
accidentally touched the mom button.
I'm nothing like her.
Rose said, voice rising a little. Kanaya raised a defensive hand, eyes wide.
Don't joke about that. You know how she was. I'm a better mom than she could ever be.
Rose's voice rose more, and Kanaya slid back, away from her wife. Sensing Kanaya's nerves, Rose sighed, slumping back down in bed, eyes closing.
You're...
Kanaya spoke hesitantly, after a long, silent moment.
You're right, Rose. You're not like your mother, but...
Kanaya put a gentle hand on Rose's shoulder.
You shouldn't compare yourself to her so much. You're not your mother, and Rosa, despite the uncanny resemblance, isn't you.
I'm sorry.
Rose said, sounding tired again. Not tired from putting her daughter to bed, tired from thinking so hard.
You're right, of course, Kanaya. But it's easy to say that. It's less easy to feel that. I know Mother meant her best. I know I shouldn't compare myself, but
Rose looked up at Kanaya, cupping her cheek.
can you tell me I'm better?
You're a better mother.
Kanaya said, happy to oblige. The tender moment was interrupted by a creak. Both women's hearts
Yeah, Mama.
seized.
Okay.
Oh, it was
That
it
creak
was.
was-
Your mom.
Okie dokie.
We both for
That
tail,
creak was
guys, we
telltale. Next would come that little voice,
Mothers.
said Rosa, standing in the doorway. It was uncanny that Rosa referred to them as mother at age 6, even more so that she childishly clung to the arm of her stuffed rabbit.
I cannot sleep.
Rose sat up, her tone of voice shifting immediately into mom mode, a gentle, patient yet firm voice. A voice that was kind but hid her intent. Kanaya called it Rose's go the fuck to sleep voice.
I'll come in and read to you a little more. Rosa, why don't you... Oh.
To their surprise, Rosa climbed down to their queen bed, squeezing between them. She'd never done this before.
I hear them.
She said softly. Rose and Kanaya exchanged a look.
That's normal, dear. I heard the horrors too when I was your age. It's best to just...
Can I sleep with you?
Rosa asked. It was surprisingly straightforward for her. Rose glanced at Kanaya, then back to Rosa.
I'm at the age where I couldn't be smothered while you slept after all.
Rosa said. Rose blinked. A beat passed, and she laughed.
You're right, I suppose.
She said, pulling the covers over her wife and daughter.
Where did you learn something like that?
Don't be naive, Mother,
replied Rosa haughtily.
Naive.
Of course she meant naive, but she wasn't tripped up by her mistake.
Anyone can read things on the internet.
That seemed to be that. On the plus side, Rosa was out like a light. Rose, too, Kanaya noticed. The last thing Kanaya saw before she dozed off was her wife and daughter, uncannily similar, smiling as they slept.
Oh my god, that was fucking great. Jojo, thank you for writing this.
I love how she's a spooky little child.
I wrote this
love her.
after
I made food.
a while ago. I wrote like a really angsty thing about cheating, and I wrote a sequel
I
to it.
remember that.
And a couple people on Twitter were like, "This is gross. I don't like this." And I realized rereading it that I didn't like it either.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I deleted all that shit off Twitter.
Uh-huh.
The sequel, that is, not the original.
Right.
And then I wrote this because I was like, all right,
Very nice.
there needs to be more.
Time for fluff.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
my response to the thing that that prompted you to write the cheating thing was to write a 19,000 word speculative piece about how the three of them could be in a polyamorous relationship that I wrote in about a day. Because I woke up at 4 a.m. and was like, I have the brain worms and I need to write. So, as one does.
Can I
That's
I'm gonna
literally
be
the
right
reason
back to
why
let the
I
dog
convinced
in.
my
Okay,
mom to
cool.
let me
Can I just
have
say-